After going through the portal, he finds himself in a cave. The mission for this floor is a duel. A system notification alerted him that the Guardian would appear in 10 seconds. Sang-gyung got into a fighting stance, ready to react at any second.
The Guardian of Darkness is entering.
A black mist appeared behind Sang-gyung's back, and when he caught the movement, he wanted to turn around, but was immediately wounded in the side by his own shadow. The creature smiled faintly as it performed such a sneaky trick.
Third floor trial, duel, defeat your double.
Turning around, Sang-gyung kicked the shadow to break the distance. The shadow, similar to venom, stuck out its tongue, anticipating a fight. Activating the accelerated regeneration skill, Sang-gyung thought that if he had not reacted to the movement, then now his spine was broken in half. The shadow at this time stood in the same stance as him. Now he is fighting with his reflection. Having made a sharp lunge and reduced the distance, Sang-gyung performed a false lunge, straight after which he changed the trajectory to the side. The creature turned towards its opponent and immediately received a blow with a sword. The protagonist had already gained distance again, looking at the enemy and the wound that goes along the chest. He grinned, which means that the recovery skill is also there. The shadow rushed to attack, repeating Sang-gyung's movement with a false lunge, but he expected this. So, before the creature struck, it received a kick in the side, which caused the blade of the sword not to reach the target. All he needs is to use his own shortcomings in fencing to defeat the Guardian of the third floor. Attacking Sang-gyun was glad that the enemy only had to defend himself, but suddenly a sharp counterattack slowed the pace a little. Having repelled the blade of the shadow, he did not understand what just happened. Could this creature really copy any of his movements so quickly? In addition, there were 59 seconds left until the end of the duel. There was no choice. Activating the buff from the cloak, Sang-gyun rushed into a frontal attack. Dodging a quick sword strike, he dove under his opponent and delivered a stabbing blow to the heart. Glad that he succeeded, he did not notice how the shadow's hand stretched out and cut off his arm just below the shoulder. Blood splashed on his face, and the pain was unbearable, as his scream indicated. He looked at the shadow, which did not move. The opponent could reactivate recovery, so he needed to finish the fight right now. The buff from the cloak would last for another 11 seconds, which meant there was only one way out. Run up and hit with his whole body, as if I were a truck at high speed. Seeing the movement, the monster swung his rubber hand for the finishing blow, but it was too late. At that very second, Sang-gyun introduced him to his shield at full speed. A grimace of pain and surprise was on the monster's face, which immediately flew away, as if he really had been hit by a truck, only it was unlikely that he would get into an isekai. Sharp bones were sticking out from his broken body. The monster was about to activate recovery, but at that very moment, he noticed his enemy, who was already standing next to him, preparing to deliver a powerful blow with his shield. Rage gave Sang-gyun strength, so his powerful blow crushed the head of the damn monster, decapitating him. As soon as Sang-gyun entered the waiting room, he looked at his recovered hand in surprise. Approaching the net, he decided to check if it was really okay. Swinging, he hit with all his might. A huge crater formed at the site of the blow. The healing was truly incredible here. But more importantly, it was the soul he received. The soul of the double was incomparable to the previous ones. It was so dense and strong. Having absorbed the soul of the double, the mastery of the skill Necromancy increased from rank F to rank E. Now, the additional effect of absorbing spirits allowed with some probability to absorb one of the skills imprinted in the soul. Sang-gyun could never have imagined that he would have such an insanely strong, unique characteristic, even considering that there is only a probability to assign a skill. Opening the team chat, he again ran his eyes through the messages. One was able to attract his attention. Someone wrote that the next test would be combined. Sang-gyun was thinking about whether there would be a joint test or a team formed. One of the chatters wrote, "If this is a competition between hunters, then wouldn't that mean killing each other?" This message scared Sang-gyun a little, because it meant that in the next test, he might have to kill a human.
You have been matched with another challenger. The 4-floor trial will now begin. Remaining time 1 day. Common trial clear condition. Defeat the Goblin King within the remaining time. Challenger team dies, or remaining time elapses. Trial failure penalty, death.
Appearing in the clearing, Sang-yong saw two more participants. It was some kind of muscle man in armor and a girl. Before that, he had only seen monsters. Now he felt a little awkward. The girl spoke first. She offered to get acquainted, since they were now a team. Her name is Lee Hae-yeon. She specializes in providing team support. On the Earth, she is an E-rank hunter. Lee Sung-hun, close combat, outside the tower, a D-rank hunter. Sang-yong immediately did not like his arrogant behavior. On the Earth, D-rank hunters were more polite. My name is Han Sang-yong. I also specialize in close combat. Outside, I am not a hunter. I am just undergoing training. Sung-hoon immediately turned on the redneck mode and expressed his dissatisfaction that Sang-yong is just a cadet. Just don't fucking bother me, Sung-hun said. However, I am sure that I fight well, and I can cope with the assigned role, said Sang-yong. But the dumb jock just laughed, saying that if he considered the cadet a burden, he would immediately kill him. Sang-yong was used to such looks. For a moment, he even forgot about that nightmare. Hey cadet, just stay back and take care of the small mobs. This fool infuriated Sang-yong because he understood that now he was no weaker than him. After all, in the Tower of Trials, everything is decided by skills. The trial has begun. As they moved through the city, they were attacked by goblin squads. The armored man was barely holding back the onslaught of 3 goblins. He couldn't understand how goblins could move in such a battle formation. He shouted at Sang-kyung if he was going to fight. This angered him, because this dumb jock wasn't even looking in his direction. At this time, Lee Hae-yeon was casting another support spell for Sung-hoon, while he was holding back the goblins. Approaching the girl, Sang-kyung said that he would have to leave her for a while to help Sung-hoon. She tried to stop him, but he had already rushed forward. She continued to shout after him. Who would cover her back? When suddenly she saw that all the goblins behind her had long since died. At this time, the pretty tired big guy began to gradually give up his position. The goblins' combined attacks caught him off guard, causing him to miss a mace strike and lose his sword. The creature was about to split his head in 2. Screaming in horror, Sang-hun prepared for death, when suddenly someone cut the goblin like a carrot. Shitting himself with fear, he saw the chopped goblin and the cadet standing in front of him. Turning around, Sang-gyun said, "Mr. Sang-hun, you're fucking bother right now." After which, in a matter of seconds, he destroyed all the goblins in his path. System notification: you have obtained the accomplishment Goblin Hunter. A black and red mist enveloped Sang-kyung. It reached out to him from the bodies of dead goblins. He was surprised. It meant that no one except him could see the effect of his unique skill, which meant that he would be able to absorb the souls of enemies without any problems. Suddenly, a system notification informed him that he had absorbed one of the skills of a goblin guard. Guard's View. That was the name of the skill. Having activated it, he saw the world from a wider angle. Another jackpot. When it was all over, Sang-hun laughed loudly. He was babbling something about luck, and that the cadet was lucky, because they were just weak goblins. Lee Hyung and Sang-kyung silently looked at the idiot, after which Sang-kyung said that he would lead the operation and move in the vanguard. He looked at Sang-hun and asked if he had any objections. Immediately realizing the situation he was in, the big man in armor calmed down his ardor, asking what other instructions there would be. "Your task is to protect the huntress Lee Hae-yeon, and nothing more. And to you," he addressed the girl. "Provide support based on the terrain, in other words, the same as you did before." The following hours of the road were the same, skirmishes with goblin squads. On the way, Sang-kyung absorbed all the souls of the killed goblins, thereby increasing the skill of E-rank necromancy by 12%. There were 14 hours and 37 minutes left until the end of the test. Moving calmly for some time, Lee Hae-yeon said that it became too quiet when suddenly, Sang-kyung noticed something in front. Abruptly tearing himself away from the spot, he ran towards what he saw. The companions became a little nervous, but the next moment, they saw a small square strewn with goblin corpses. Seong-hun was surprised at how quickly their opponents were moving, while Seong-kyung noticed that the blood was still warm. They needed to hurry, because if the other team won, his companions and he were doomed to die. With these thoughts, he said that they needed to, in a hurry. At this time, somewhere in the city, someone knocks a sword on a large shield, attracting the attention of a large crowd of goblins. One of the goblins suddenly felt someone climb on his back. A hunter with 2 daggers sat right on top of the surprised monster. The hunter was already clearly irritated by the monotonous battle against the goblins. Suddenly, 2 emboldened goblins jumped out of the crowd of monsters. They wanted to defeat the enemy so much that they killed their bro. The next moment, the hunter who parried the goblin's attacks rushed to kill the monsters. The two teammates praise their leader, who was clearly irritated that he had to do everything alone. He even makes fun of one of his teammates, after which he orders him to open the boss's room. Ji-Hoo, the guy with the shield, obediently went to carry out the order, although he clearly did not like it. Before reaching the door, the system notification notified everyone that all the conditions had been met. Both teams reached the Goblin King's lair. A red barrier began to appear from the ground, and notifications continued to inform the players. Now, no one will leave this zone until only one team remains alive. The leader of the second group cursed in displeasure, while the white-haired man noticed Sang-kyung's group approaching. "Fuck, I wanted to finish quickly," said the man with daggers. Seeing the enemies, Sang-kyung warned his team. He was going to fight alone. The only thing he needed was a dexterity buff. She could give all the other buffs to Seong-hun. The girl trusted him without a doubt, because during the entire trial, she had managed to see Sang-kyung's strength. But perhaps people would be scarier than all these monsters. He thanked She for the warning, so if he felt danger, he would give a signal. "Until then, I count on your support." Sang-kyung was convinced. He had surpassed the skill level of an average hunter. In addition, he had just killed more than 30 goblins. 3 opponents began to move, preparing for battle. Sang-kyung decided not to hesitate any longer, and rushed at full speed towards the enemies. Gaining crazy speed, he approached the enemies. The leader of the second team felt the outgoing danger, so he commanded Ji-Hoo to use his ability. Activating it, a magical barrier appeared around the teammates, emitting a golden glow. At great speed, Sang-kyung brought down his blow straight at the magical shield. The blow was so strong that the defense immediately crumbled into small pieces, throwing Ji-Hoo back with a shockwave. Without slowing down even for a second, Sang-kyung closed the distance, killing 2 enemies with a quick movement, and only the third was able to block his blow. Sung-hoon and Lee Hyung were clearly amazed by what they had just seen. Sang-kyung made quick lunges with his sword, but the hunter managed to block every blow. He did not understand the trick here because the enemy's skills were clearly inferior, but he still blocked every blow. Having made a feint, he deftly jumped behind the enemy's back, intending to finish him off with one strong blow. The enemy was able to block Sang-kyung's blow again, but this was what allowed him to unravel his peculiarity. He is able to see the trace of the blade aimed at him, which is why he was able to parry the blows every time, throwing his shield at the enemy, thereby narrowing his field of vision. Sang-kyung made a sharp dash towards him, preparing to deliver a fatal blow. Using this trick, he still managed to deceive the enemy's defense and carry out a successful attack by stabbing him with his sword. The system immediately notified about the completion of a special task, as well as that bonuses would be added to the reward for passing the floor. Coming closer, Lee Hyeon noticed how Sang-kyung's hand was shaking. She guessed that this was the first time he killed a person. She asked if everything was okay, and although Sang-kyung looked devastated, he said that he was fine. "Do you mind if we fight the boss right now?" Sung-hoon and Lee Hyun supported their leader. After some time, we are shown the wounded Goblin King. Sang-kyung jumped on his back and delivered the finishing blow. The Goblin King's body collapsed dead, and the system notification notified the team members about the successful completion of the 4th floor.
Their reward for completion is an increase in all stats by 4. You have obtained the skill Instant Acceleration D rank, F an additional reward.
Sung-hoon was a little scared by Sang-kyung's strength, so as soon as the portals to the waiting room were opened, he said his goodbyes and left. Lee Hye-yeon and Sang-kyung were left alone. He was about to say goodbye to her, but she spoke first. Her words may be out of place, but you only did what you had to. Someone had to kill the enemy team anyway, and if he refused to do so, then she would have entered the battle. Hearing this, Sang-kyung admitted that after her words, he felt better. Lee Hye-yeon sent a friend request and then said, "It can be said that the test of the 4th floor was completely passed due to your strength. That's why I felt like I was inferior to you. It makes me uneasy." As she was about to enter the portal, she added, "In the future, when you return to Earth, find Lee Haeon from the White Guild," after which she disappeared into the portal. Sang-kyung turned to the black-red fog that was floating in the air everywhere. The cores were hovering above the bodies of the defeated enemies and giving off a slight glow. All this time, the question was in his head: should he absorb the human soul or not? When he made sure that he was capable of this, he postponed the absorption process for later. After all, he felt that he was about to cross an irreversible line. But now I have made up my mind. With these words, he began to absorb human souls. Although he has no intention of killing people, but in a situation where there is no right to choose, and in addition to his very first desire to become a hunter, new ambitions have already begun to grow in his soul. Sang-gyung will definitely take advantage of the chance that the tower gave. He will conquer all floors on the way to the top of the tower.